Let me thank my good friend, the distinguished gentleman from the Badger State, for yielding some time, as well as for the leadership that you have continued to provide week after week in the context of this Congressional Progressive Caucus special order, and on behalf of the people that you represent, and indeed people all across America, in bringing issues to the forefront that we in this House of Representatives should be dealing with in order to improve the quality of life of everyone who we represent. Now, unfortunately, I stand today on the House floor again finding myself in a situation where the only obstacle to progress is the House GOP majority. Once again, we are placed in a situation where the American people could stand to benefit from congressional action, but because of obstinance and obstruction on the other side, you've got close to 2 million long-term unemployed Americans who find themselves in a distressed financial situation. Now, earlier today, we were informed that a bipartisan agreement was reached in the Senate, and hopefully that means we will see progress in that chamber at some point this month, which means that we have a real opportunity here in the House of Representatives to act in a manner that would benefit long-term unemployed Americans. And why should we do that? Well, because there are many individuals all across this country, in the district that I represent in Brooklyn and in Queens, but all across America, who find themselves unemployed not because of their lack of interest, not because of lack of effort, not because of an unwillingness to work, but because of structural changes that have occurred in our economy, particularly in the aftermath of the Great Recession of 2008. And we know that when the economy collapsed in 2008, that didn't have anything to do with folks on mainstream America. That didn't have anything to do with folks in urban America, in the district that I represent. That didn't have anything to do with folks in rural America who are struggling. It was because of the behavior of some reckless institutions on Wall Street and connected to the financial services industry whose actions collapsed the world's economy. And Americans have suffered as a result. And so those consequences are still being felt. We are no longer technically in a recession. This is one of the arguments that our good friends on the other side of the aisle point out. And so what's the emergency? The emergency is you still have an unacceptably high unemployment rate. And a disproportionately high number of those individuals happen to be long-term unemployed. Now, the argument that's often advanced by our good friends on the other side of the aisle as they attempt to justify the obstruction that has taken place in blocking unemployment insurance from being extended is that we are enabling these individuals. Enabling these individuals. What kind of myth is that? There's no evidence to support that argument. First of all, it's important to note that in order to qualify for unemployment insurance, as the distinguished gentleman from Wisconsin knows, you have to demonstrate conclusively that you are actively engaged in an employment search. Otherwise, you are ineligible. But there's this caricature that has been created. These are individuals who are sitting at home like couch potatoes, channel surfing, whose only exercise is when they run outside of the house in order to pick up the unemployment insurance check from the mailbox and then run back in and continue to channel search. Can we have an evidence-based discussion, Mr. Speaker, as opposed to fictional caricatures created to justify your harshness and refusal to move forward and provide assistance to these unemployed Americans? We know it's a fictional caricature that you've created to justify your indifference because the facts suggest otherwise. We know that for every 258 Americans who are searching for employment, only 100 jobs exist. I'm no mathematician, but it suggests to me that given the nature of the economy, it is impossible for every one of those individuals who would otherwise be eligible for unemployment insurance to secure employment because of structural realities in the economy. And that doesn't even account for the fact that often there will be a skills mismatch as our economy continues to change, shift away from manufacturing jobs, shift into technology and innovation. That's a good thing, but there's a skills mismatch that has to be dealt with. And so the choice that we've been given is to deem these individuals and brand them as lazy Americans when the facts are to the contrary. Why? Why would we leave these unemployed Americans on a recessionary battlefield? We know that there's been a very schizophrenic recovery. Corporate profits are way up. Unemployment is still up, but the stock market is up, and CEO compensation is up. Yet middle-class families and those who aspire to be part of the middle class are increasingly struggling in America. Whenever I'm back home in Brooklyn, I'm often approached by individuals who are in fear that they could lose their home, given the reality that they have been harshly and callously cut off by the obstruction of the House GOP majority. And I'm just hopeful that for the good of America, because there's unemployed in blue states and there's unemployed in red states, there's unemployed individuals in urban America, in suburban America, in rural America, all across this great country. Can't we find the compassion and the will to address this issue? And as I prepare to take my seat and yield back to the distinguished gentleman, I'd also point out that what has occurred here is another example of us here in this Congress doing things affirmatively to prevent jobs from being created. We allowed sequestration to take effect on April 1st of last year, notwithstanding the fact that independent economists suggested that we would lose 750,000 jobs in America if we allowed it to occur, yet the majority steadfastly stood behind sequestration. And then, in October of 2013, we had a reckless, unreasonable, unnecessary government shutdown, cost the economy $24 billion according to Standard & Poor's in lost economic productivity. But you complain that Americans are supposedly sitting at home, channel surfing, staying on the couch, not looking for work, while you affirmatively damage the economy. And now, as a result of your failure to deal with the unemployment insurance issue, if this were to continue throughout this year, you'll cost us another 200,000 jobs. And so I would just say that for a wide variety of reasons, because it is in the best interest of the American economy, the best interest of the people that we represent, and that it represents the best values of America, that we allow a vote to take place on the floor of the House of Representatives, because I'm confident, Mr. Speaker, that if you do, the votes exist to pass this into law, and we can put this sad chapter in the 113th Congress behind us. I thank the distinguished gentleman again for his continued